This is Roy from Dun Inc., and I'm pleased to announce we have a new version of Camlift software for January of 2019. This is version 2.9.7.1. This is an upgrade from 2.9.4, and as we are going to be introducing an entirely new line of Camlift towers that have different lead pitches and all kinds of other different mechanical functions, we needed new software. This software can be used with all existing Camlifts as well, and when used with an existing Camlift, what it brings to you is a fine focus mode for when you're working with high mag, and that's what I'm going to go over with you on here. So when you start this up, you start it up just like you do your normal software. It fires up just like the 2.9.4. I'm running Windows 10 Pro right now. I'll show you where the differences reside. You go into Advanced. Okay, I've got some settings here I've already edited. The motor velocity, if you're using the fine thread pitch on your P51 Camlift, this is a perfect setting for you. If you're using the standard pitch, you might try a setting that is 230000, something like that. If you, let me put that back so I can run this one. Your motor acceleration has also been changed quite a bit. The original motor acceleration would only go down to 100. This one will go down to 50. This will also go up to 1,000. Now, the reason you'd want to set this to a relatively low general point, I like between 100 to 300, is that it gives a little bit of a ramp up and a ramp down prior to starting and stopping. So it's not so jerky. If you set the motor acceleration to 1,000, it's like a little jackhammer every time you move it. It's instant on and instant off. There's really no reason to do that unless you were going to be moving one very long move. But because we're doing a lot of Z stacking, typically a setting between 100 and 300 is perfect. The default on this is 100. You can leave it there. Fine acceleration. The default on this is going to be 2. Now, I like it at a setting of 5 if I'm using the Canon MPE 65mm. I will set it to a setting of 2 if I'm using a 5x or 10x microscope objective. The lower the number, the finer the focusing will be. And what this does is it lowers your ramp speed down so much to where when you touch the up and down button, up or down button, it barely moves the motor so that you can get into some really, really fine focus. Now this will only work when you're in infinite mode and you have this box checked over here, the fine focus mode checked. So let's set our fine focus acceleration to 5 because I'm using the Canon MPE. Holding current, the default on this is also 5. That's fine. I set mine down to 1, and I do so because I like to. I don't like to hear that squeal noise that you get from the holding current being on in certain random positions of the motor. The lower the holding current, the less apt you are to hear that noise. The lead screw pitch, your default is going to be 2, and that's the default for the fine lead screw Camlift. If you have the standard lead screw Camlift, you're going to want to set this at 4.0. Now, all the Camlifts out there are either 4 or 2. So if you've got the, in Singapore, you got the micro Camlift. Everybody else has got either the fine thread or the standard. The micro and the fine thread are both 2. And the standard Camlift is 4. This particular Camlift that I'm operating has a 1mm pitch on it. Why the difference in pitches? The finer the pitch, the lead screw, the finer the steps can be. This particular one with a 1mm lead can replicate steps as small as 0.2 micron. So when I'm getting into ultra high mag microscope objectives, my accuracy is double over the fine thread of the standard Camlift, and it gives me a bit more latitude with fine focusing as well. The Camlift with the fine thread pitch at 2 millimeters is sort of right in the middle of the family. It's the best of both worlds. It lets you do the micro and lets you do the macro. This is what I'm working on right now is primarily micro. The lead screw length on your standard default, I believe, is 550. That equates to the newest Camlift with the small head. If you've got the old Camlift with the big head and the K2, then you're probably looking at something around 400. But if you're using 2.9.4 currently and you've got your lead screw length already set, just carry that over, whatever it is. So I'm going to set mine. I'll leave mine at 400 because I've got a small lift anyway. Backlash corrections. Okay. These are in micro pulses or micro steps. And so what this is every micro pulse or step on this is 0.2 microns. So I've got 4 of those. So I've got a total of 0.8 microns. So my backlash on this is less than 1 micron. Now to give you an example, there is a very popular small Z-stacking rail that's been out for a number of years. We use it in our Passport, and its default is over 200 microns in backlash. It's a completely different mechanical thing. So the Camlifts are super tight. The new Camlift rails are extremely tight. So leave that alone. Don't mess with it. Shutter time, leave it as a default 500. That's fine for most cameras. You're going to have the reverse box checked if you're running the Camlift. I'm running the new Camlift, and it has a motor on top, and this software was originally designed for it. So for me, I don't check that box off, but you just want to leave it checked in reverse. That's fine. So that's it. You apply, okay. Now let me just go through the fine focusing really quick, and we'll call it a day just to show you how this goes. Okay, what we're going to do now is we'll turn on the live view, and we'll bring up the Camlift, and we'll set up our lenses. We got the 65. That's fine. Doesn't matter what aperture we're working because we're not going to do stacks. That's fine. Now I'm going to go, and using my live view here, I'm going to bring this down a bit to where I can see it. Okay, so here's a point in space. Here's the edge of this wing right here. Now, with the old software, when you wanted to, actually I'll show you on the old software. Yeah, the slowest motor acceleration you would have would be 100. So this is what you'd be working with. If you're moving this up and down infinite, you can see it's, even though I'm just tickling the mouse, it has a tendency to jump all over the place. So what we've done in the past is we've used these small jogs. So you could set it for something small and move it. But you have to wait for this to move, stop, recognize its position, then turn back on again. So it's kind of slow, it's kind of herky-jerky. So what we've done, you can see here, this is a close-up. If I hit fine focus mode and I take this to infinite, I can just move this thing right down to whatever point I want. Like if I wanted, let's say I wanted to get some of that CD down there. Let me turn fine focus off and get kind of, let's say I want to get this thing right in there. Okay. Hit on my fine focus. Just sort of tickle it. There we go. We're done. I don't have to pick a step, and I don't have to wait for it to, you see, it's not every time I click it, I'm not waiting for it to regenerate. It's already there. So I can click this as fast as I want. It just makes life a little easier for fine focusing. That's it for that. Now, the thing with the fine focus is it only works on infinite. even if I have this thing, even if it's checked, if I'm moving in these jogs, the fine focus mode, in other words, that ultra slow ramp speed, will not be applied to any of these movements. So these will act normally, or they will give you the same ramp speed that you have in your motor acceleration right here. It's only when you're on infinite. Now, when you do auto run, it's also, this is turned off so that you're not going to end up with ridiculously slow ramp speeds when you're doing your steps. That would be a real pain in the ass. So the only thing that you need to do is when you're going to send this thing home is turn off the fine focus, because it's going to go in infinite, and it's going to, if you're running it in fine focus and you're going to turn this thing out and say send the camera back to the top, if you were to leave the fine focus on, it would take forever to ramp up to the speed, and then it would start to slow down 3 inches away from the top, and it would kind of crawl its way in there. It'll get there, but it's just slower. Okay, that about covers the differences between the 2.9.4 and the 2.9.71 Camlift software. I hope this works for you. Thanks. Bye.